A few years ago, I went with a few friends to visit their grandmother in Lake Havasu, Arizona. And despite that being one of the hottest places in the nation on a regular basis, we had one goal that weekend, and that was to make sure that Grandma didn't cook. Grandma was a world-renowned bad chef. She could not cook. Her food tasted terrible. And so it was our goal to cook every meal or go out to eat, but we would not let Grandma cook. So one afternoon, the three of us went out for a little bit. When we came home, Grandma had already started cooking dinner. And so we went over and we took a little taste, and it was awful. It was so blah that we're looking at each other like, what did we do? We have failed. We let Grandma cook. So we went around about our afternoon, and when it came around to dinner time, we all sat down to eat Grandma's meal. And as we ate it, it was super salty. And we started looking at each other like, what happened? It was so blah, like an hour and a half ago. What happened? And then we realized that each one of us had gone and put salt in the meal separately without telling each other. And so we went from this terrible meal that was blah to this terrible meal that was over salted. We wrecked the meal. Grandma couldn't cook, but we didn't help any. In Colossians 4, 5, and 6, it says this. It says, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Now listen to this. This is one of my favorite verses right here. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Did you hear that? May every conversation be full of grace and seasoned with salt. Full of grace and seasoned with salt. Paul tells us, be wise in our conversations with outsiders. You know what an outsider is? It's somebody who's not in the family of God yet. They just haven't found Jesus. They're not in the family yet, and so they're an outsider. But it's God's desire that everybody who's an outsider becomes a family member. And the way we do that is by having conversations that are full of grace and sprinkled with salt. Don't be like Grandma and put no salt in there, because I think sometimes Christians were too afraid to even bring Jesus up at all. And so our conversations are blah. They need a little Jesus. They need a little grace. They need a little spirituality in it, and we don't bring it. And then I think there's other Christians who just take off the top of the salt shaker and dump it in the entire meal and wreck it like me and my buddies did. It's Grandma's meal. So there's two ends of the spectrum, either not enough salt, not enough Jesus, or too much Jesus. Either way, the meal's no good. The conversation doesn't have the right flavor. So today, when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your coworkers, when you talk to your neighbors who don't know Jesus, I want you to be mindful. How do you have a conversation that's full of grace and sprinkled with salt? Just the right amount of Jesus, just the right amount of God, just the right amount of grace, so that one day they go from being an outsider to the family of God to an insider in the family of God. Have a great day.